everyone, welcome back to my channel. Last week, I have made a video about an interesting way to combat the Tarrasch variation in the French defense. Today, we will move on to the exchange variation. The exchange variation starts after e4, e6, d4, d5. Here, white play e takes d5. This move was known for its drawish tendencies. So, if you face that move, you can assume that your opponent either want to draw or he's scared with your French. E takes d5 is literally forced. Here, white has several alternatives. A modern alternative is c4. This aims for the IQP, also known as isolated queen's pawn structure. If you face this, you can ensure that the white player knows what he's doing and he's not just fighting for a draw. Knight f6 is the strongest move. Knight c3, bishop e7, knight f3. The two sides just develop like normal. Castle, bishop e2, d takes c4. This move is a very good move. We wait until the bishop moves and we take the pawn. So white need to spend one more tempo with his bishop, which is not recommendable in the opening. Bishop g4. Immediately put pressure on the d4 pawn, which is black's main plan in this structure. Bishop e3, knight b d7. Here, for example, white can play h3. Then we don't give white the bishop pair with bishop f3, but we play bishop to h5. White will find the pin very annoying and hard to break. If white ever play g4, we'll retreat the bishop to g6 and white's kingside is miserably weakened. Black has good chances here. Apart from knight f3, white can also play c takes d5. We take bishop c4, knight b6, hitting the bishop, bishop b3 castle. Again, this pinning move, and knight c6. The d4 square is under a lot of pressure. In the future, we can considering ideas like knight a5 too to harass the b3 bishop. The c4 square is a juicy spot for our pieces too, as well as the d5 square. We are at least equal here. Bishop g5 is playable too. We made it with c6, holding on to our pawn, as white is threatening bishop f6, followed by knight d5, winning a pawn. We play c6, knight 3, castle, bishop e2, and again forcing white to spend the tempo on his bishop. Knight b d7, trying to occupy the d5 square. You see, we have the d5 square very well controlled, which means that white won't be able to get d4, d5 in soon, which is his resource to get rid of his isolated queen's pawn. Black is slightly better here. Okay, that's the c4 variation. Now we'll move on to white's two most popular alternatives. They are bishop d3 and knight f3. We'll examine knight f3 first. We made it with bishop d6, planning to develop the knight to e7. The bishop on d6 also controls the important e5 square. Here, white's most popular move is bishop to d3. After something like knight f6, castle, castle, bishop g5, bishop g4, the position is super boring, very symmetrical, and it's 99% that it will result in a draw. But no, we play the French not with the intention to draw. If our opponent try to make half a point for him, we'll go for the full point with knight c6. This is quite a rare move compared to knight f6. Black's idea is to develop his queenside pieces and go for queenside castling. After black castle queenside, he can storm the enemy king with f6, g5 and h5. that ensure a lively battle. After knight c6, white can castle, we play knight g to e7, exchanging our bishop on c8 for the bishop on d3. On the f5 square is a common idea in this variation, as our c8 bishop is somewhat less active, and also we want to gain the f5 square for the knight. c3, bishop f5, bishop g4 is playable too, but I think white gets the slightly easier game after rook e1, queen d7. After we castle queenside, white can immediately start the offensive with b4 with a dangerous attack. So I recommend bishop f5 instead. Here bishop f5 is weak because knight f5. We have gained the strong f5 square for the knight. Rook e1, the other knight will slide back to e7. You see, that's one of the main idea behind the move knight c6. This knight can go back to e7, supporting this knight, defending the pawn, and also c6 is coming, further defending the d5 pawn. We can also play h5 in the future to secure the f5 square for our knight. After knight bd2, queen d7, knight e5 is the only move threatening this position. In this game, the player playing black was French defense legend Victor Moskalenko, who published several good books on this opening. In the game, he played queen e6, which is not very strong and unnatural, as it walks the queen into the rook's line of fire. Instead, bishop e5 is stronger. I think d-type is better, but the structure now is a kingside majority for white versus a queenside majority for black. There's a lot of material imbalances, pawn structure imbalances, which guarantee us excellent attacking chances. We can go with queen e6, planning h5. As white plan is to push the kingside majority, we can play h5 to stop g4 in the future. About our queenside attack, we can launch it with c5 and d4. Okay, a sample line is castle, queen e6, and I think white best move here is knight f3. We can play h6 to cover the g5 square, and we will continue with our queenside attack. I want to note that f4 is a big blunder for white. We win after queen b6 and knight e3. Knight c2 is going to follow with devastating material loss for white. Rook e5 is no better. h5. You see, now the f5 square is a permanent outpost for our knight. h4 and h3 is going to follow to cramp white further. Knight f3, f6, kick the rook back. g5 and castle. Black's attack has gone much faster than white. Bishop f5 is not so strong, so rook e1 should be preferred. After queen d7, protecting the bishop, white can take. If now white try to launch the queenside attack immediately with b4, we can take advantage of not castling queenside yet and change our plan with castle kingside. The c4 square is a long-term positional weakness which we can try to exploit. After a4, knight g6, again that idea to bring the c6 knight back to e7. The other knight can jump into f4, creating many problems for white's king. After knight a3, knight c e7, black has an excellent position. Apart from b4, white can also try knight b to d2. We can castle, knight f1 to play knight d3, harassing the queen. We'll play f6, planning the kingside advances. Knight e3, queen h5, b4, knight f5. the e7 knight was more passive, so we exchange it. And anyway, we have one more knight ready to replace it. Knight takes, queen takes, a4, rook h to e8, bishop a3, knight e7, rook a2. This idea for white is very interesting. White plan to double rooks along the e file. Okay, we'll return, and after rook a to e2, I think knight f5 is an interesting alternative. h5 might follow. Our bishop is very strong comparing to white's bishop. Our bishop is a strong bishop as it's sitting on a different color as our pawns. The c4 and e4 square are very weak, and we can launch a kingside attack even after the rooks are off. So I want to conclude that black is better here, and in a practical game he has more chance of bringing home the full point. Okay, after knight f3, bishop d6, white has sometimes tried knight c3. This move may look quite absurd, but actually it has the idea of bringing the knight back to e2, followed by bishop f4, exchanging the bishop. We'll reply with c6, bishop d3, knight e7. Again, the same idea to play bishop f5, castle, rook e1. Here we would love to play bishop g4, creating an unusual and very hard to break pin, but unluckily for us, here white has a strong resource, bishop h7. King takes, followed by knight g5, picking up a pawn with a decisive advantage. So, instead of bishop g4, I recommend you to play knight g6, threatening to hop the knight into f4 square. After h3, preventing bishop g4, we'll play knight d7, followed by knight f6. Our pieces is all directed to the king side, and I won't be surprised if black decide the game with a strong king side sacrifice. The d2, bishop is very weak. You see, many white pieces here look like they're blocking each other, while black has many ideas, including knight f4, getting the bishop pair, as white will be forced to take with the bishop. Now we'll move on to the main line, bishop d3. After bishop d6, knight f3, knight c6, we transpose the position examined earlier, so we will only consider white independent alternative. There is knight e2. Okay, for now we'll copy them, castle, but now we'll stop playing the copycat game with knight b to c6. I guess you already know the idea, but now we have knight b4 as a threat too, picking up the bishop pair. c3, preventing knight b4. Okay, we'll still play bishop f5 and bishop f4. I must confess that the position is equal here, and both sides has done an equally good job of coming to this position, and I guess that this is a draw. I didn't manage to find any good try for black to grin and press for the full point. But bishop f5 I think is the objectively strongest move. If you are in a forced situation to win, you might try bishop g4. This move is weaker but ensure higher winning chances, as this move is provoking f3, which is a weak move. After bishop f5, bishop f4, we come to the same position with the crucial difference that the pawn is on f3 instead of f2. This is in the black's favor, as the e3 square is permanently weakened. After h5, queen c2, bishop d3, exchange another pair of bishop, queen d6, and we castle queenside. You see, f3 has created some weaknesses which we can target, and the position is not dead drawn anymore. But white best move is h3. We can still reply with bishop f5, but you see, h3 didn't weaken the king side so much comparing to f3. Okay, we must castle king side as there's not enough time to castle queen side. Rook e1, bishop takes, and knight g6, followed by rook a8. There's still some life in this position. As our knights are slightly more active, we can have the plan of h5 followed by h4 too. Okay, that's knight e2. Now we will come to the last variation of this video, queen f3. After knight c6, c3 is almost forced, as knight e2, knight b4 is very annoying for white. After c3, knight e7, knight e2, h5, immediately exploiting the drawback of queen f3. I just want to note that the player who plays queen f3 should be experienced with the exchange French, and it's likely that they have prepared this at home. The idea is to play knight e2 followed by bishop f4, and the queen will be active compared to other line where it stays on d1. So we are exploiting the queen on f3 with h5. We show white that the queen on f3 also has its advantage, has its drawbacks too. After h3, bishop e6, preparing queen d7 and castle queen side, bishop f3. Now we come to a strong, suppressing anti-positional move, knight g6. What on earth? Can this move be good? But it is. Black plan to castle queen side, not caring about the damage structure on the king side, as a double pawn might help him opening a file and gaining a strong attack. Okay, white take the offer and damaging our king side. After knight d2 castle, it turns out that we have nothing to worry. We have the open e and f5 to strike on. The g6 pawn will go forward with g5 followed by g4, opening up the king side, and black has nothing to worry. Okay, if white don't play h3, he has bishop f4 too, exchanging the bishop. We'll reply with bishop g4 followed by queen d7, with similar play to previous line. Okay, that finished our coverage of the exchange variation. To conclude, I want to say that the exchange variation is very drawish, but I think I have done quite a good job of examining the variation and find some life where both sides have chances to win, and showing that the exchange variation is not so dry for black. Black has plenty of ways to avoid the draw which white has present him with his third move. If you like the video, don't forget to subscribe and like my channel. I'd love your support to make better videos for the deserved chess community. Thank you for watching. Bye bye!